So it's front-wheel drive Seat, rear-wheel drive BMW on the front row of the grid, rear-wheel drive BMW, front-wheel drive Golf on row number 2, and all front-wheel drive row number 3 with 2 Seats. And then we've got the BMW and the Audi TT, which will be interesting to see how that gets off the line on the 4th row of the grid. And Bradley's get away very, very slowly indeed. It's a great start from Gary Hufford, who draws himself alongside Darren Goes, but is on the wrong side of the circuit heading up towards the Paddock Hill bend, so he's going to have to brave it out all the way around the outside if he wants to make it stick. So Darren Goes leads the way, Gary Hufford in 2nd position, and the car that started on the front row of the grid is down into 5th place at the moment, in danger of dropping down into 6th position potentially. So Darren Goes leads the way, Gary Hufford there in 2nd position, and 3rd is that Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley's car that's there in 3rd place. I think it is, isn't it? The championship leaders, yeah, had a poor qualifying, only qualified 6th quickest, but are up to 3rd in the early stages of the race. Great start from the number 1 Seat.
Yeah, electric getaway from the Seat. There was a little bit of contact between Adrian Bradley in their BMW and the Team Darkside VW Golf, which has been very busy already today. A little bit of side-to-side contact as they pulled away from the line, because the BMW didn't really go anywhere as the leaders come up towards the timing line for the first time in this one. It's Darren Goes with the advantage, with the Hufford orange BMW right on his tail, and that fast-starting Seat Leon with Jackson and being shared between Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley. Pitchley, a former Renault Clio Cup UK front runner, so a very handy driver. And that number 1 machine going nicely in 3rd spot. And look at the diesel-powered VW Golf as well. You can never rule it out because the parkings are right there in 4th.
Yeah, and this has huge implications for the championship, because the championship leaders are in 3rd place. They are only 3 points in the lead of the championship when you take drop scores into account from Darren Goes, who leads the race. And what are there? There are 30 points for a race win, 27 for 2nd, 24 for 3rd, extra points depending on how many competitors you beat in your class, extra point for pole position, and extra point for fastest lap. And at the moment, where Darren Goes is sufficient for him if they stay where they are, and there's still 43 minutes to go for him to claim the championship and overhaul that very slender points deficit that exists between himself and the Nick Jackson Ollie Pitchley car. There is there in 3rd position at the moment, and it's still bottled up behind the orange BMW of Gary Hufford, who is quite within his own rights. Yes, he's having an impact on the championship, but he wants to try and win this race if he can, as he sits there in 2nd.
Yeah, and he was showing well in qualifying, but did fall down the order slightly towards the end of the session, but going very well indeed in the early part of this one. Scott Parkin still in 4th. We've got the other parking machine, that's the number 6 Audi TT further back. That's Ryan Parkin in the car that was previously driven by Simon Walton in VW Cup. That's getting involved in a squabble with the Damien and Adrian Bradley BMW. So too involved is the Brichter and Smith Seat. So that's a teammate to the Ollie Pitchley and Nick Jackson car further up the road. Just the black bumpers and sort of black bodywork helping differentiate it from its teammate, which is looking very aggressive, trying to get 2nd place away from Hufford in the bright orange BMW. So lights ablaze on Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley's 3rd place car. They're meaning business, and in this late autumnal season at Brands, you can really see those flashes of the lights shining even in the early part of the afternoon.
Yeah, he's desperate to try and get himself through and ahead of Gary Hufford. Gary, who hasn't done many of the rounds of the championship really, so he's languishing rather down in 15th position in the championship standings, but he's 2nd on the road at the moment, and we'll want to see if he can hang on to the coattails of Darren Goes, who is just starting to edge away a little bit more now. The lead advantage was just over a second last time through, 1.151 seconds between the number 22 Seat Leon and the number 45 orange BMW, with the NJM Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley driven or shared Seat Leon Supercup sitting there in 3rd place, with Scott Parkin there in 4th position. 5th place is the Dylan Brichter and Martin Smith number 2 car, and completing the top 6 at the moment, having started on the front row of the grid, is the Team Legacy BMW of Adrian and Damien Bradley that are dropping down through the order, aren't they? Yeah,
they're coming under increasing pressure from the Audi TT of Ryan Parkin, who in his own right is coming under pressure as well from Callum Noble in the Thorny Motorsport run BMWs. The purple with the green flashes of Callum Noble had that radiator issue yesterday in testing, going better in the finale for the MSV Supercup. He's right on the coattails of the number 6 Audi TT as they come down the Cooper Straight. Going to show his nose up the inside at Surtees. It's very close between the 2 rear-wheel drive cars, and they've got the BMW, which started so far up the order, but fell like a stone off the getaway on the line. That's the Adrian and Damien Bradley BMW, which is currently at the bottom end of the top 6.
Yeah, and coming under pressure, as you say, from that Audi TT. And then Callum Noble's BMW not that far away. For the lead of the race, Darren Goes, is he edging away ever more? No, the gap came down by 1/10 of a second last time through, so Seat Leon still leads, but Gary Hufford was 1/10 of a second quicker than the race leader that time through, but still hasn't shaken away the current championship leading car that sits there in third position. But despite the flashing of the lights for the Nick Jackson Ollie Pidgley shared car, they've not been able to muster their way through up into second position, and now, if anything, are just a bit too far away really to attack as they head up through Surtees and McLaren and on towards Clearways Corner. They're about to chalk lap number 6 into the book. We've got just under 10 minutes, however, until the pit window opens, so we're only 5 minutes into this 45-minute race.
Further back, leading Class B is Martin Smith in his Seat Ibiza. He's in 10th spot currently in number 24, just ahead of Chris Payne, who you'll remember from the last race before lunch as the 5th place car's having a good tussle. That's the Darkside run VW Golf going side by side with the Brichter and Smith Seat Leon Supercup through Druid, through Paddock as well, into Graham Hill Bend. Surely not. Yes, they're going to go side by side through half the lap of the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, and a change for position then. So 4th place is now home to the Seat Leon. It dislodges the Scott Parkin VW Golf, and we now have the two teammates in their almost identical NJM Racing run Seats in 3rd and 4th place, and the leader, Darren Goes, is about to come up to the first part of traffic.
Yeah, the first little bit of traffic that he's going to meet is going to be the number 94 Porsche that Chris Woolstonbull is sharing with. As we say, Richardson is the surname. We've never got to the bottom of what the Christian name is for the driver he's sharing with. I still haven't been able to find it on an amendment sheet anywhere, so I don't think that documentation has reached us as yet. So that car moves neatly out of the way, allows both race-leading Seat and second-place BMW to squeeze its way through. We should see the Nick Jackson Ollie Pidgley Seat also pass that Porsche on the run in towards Graham Hill Bend, which it does. Now, despite the fact that the Team Darkside BMW lost the place, it still leads its class, doesn't it? Because it is power-to-weight ratio that dictates the class, and that Volkswagen Golf runs in Class A, so that's for cars between 176 and 205 brake horsepower per tonne. The car that went through and ahead of it was a Class S car, which is the most powerful class that we have this year in Supercup, 206 to 240 brake horsepower.
And Darren Goes, Hufford go across the timing line as one, just 6 tenths between them, not much between the top two, as that squabble between the Darkside Golf and the BMW is now starting to heat up, because Scott Parkin is falling down the order. He's been passed by that Seat, as we mentioned earlier, and now he's coming under pressure from the Bradleys in their BMW, and that's Adrian and Damien Bradley past the VW Golf on the run into Paddock Hill Bend, and now Scott Parkin is going to come under pressure from his brother Ryan Parkin in the Audi TT. So it hasn't been a great last couple of laps for Scott, who took a comfortable race win in the first encounter of the day of the MSV Track Day Championship. Now he's got his brother looming in the mirrors in the Audi TT. I've
got to say thank you to Jamie Moore from Moore's Motors, who has given me the starting drivers for the two cars from NJM. The number 1 car, Nick Jackson, is the starting driver of that. The number 2 car, Dylan Brichter, is the starting driver for that. That has just found its way to me, so thank you to Jamie Moore for that, for at least tidying up the drivers that we've got at the sharp end of this field. So it's Darren Goes that leads, Gary Hufford in second place. It is then Nick Jackson, the championship leader, there in third place, but the sister car to it sitting behind in the hands of Dylan Brichter. And at the moment, the way things stand mathematically, the car that leads is going to be lifting the championship trophy, which will be presented later on this evening at the MSV Centre.
Yeah, and Scott Parkin's lost another place. I think it could be an issue the VW Golf is there, because he's really fallen down the order in the last 3 laps. Scott Parkin has lost place after place, and now his latest rival to Nick Pass is the BMW of the Thorny Motorsport run car. So that's Callum Noble, and now it looks like the other Parkin is in trouble. That's Ryan Parkin in the Audi TT. So the brothers are having a tough time of it on the Indy circuit currently.
Yeah, so Scott Parkin down through the order again, but still continues to lead Class A, because every time cars are going past him, it's cars that are either running in Class S, or in the case of the Team Legacy BMW, Adrian and Damien Bradley, that runs in Class G, the guest class for this weekend. That's the white BMW with the green flashes to it. All of the cars that have gone past now are running in Class S, the top and the most powerful class we have this year. And I say that because regulations change for next year. It's this year Supercup, that is the top class, Class S, but when it is rebranded next year to the Turismo X Championship, we bring in Division X, which is for even more powerful cars. It's from 241 up to 300 brake horsepower per tonne with the change of the regulations for next year.
And the Audi TT being looked at the far end of the pits. That's where Darkside Development Squad are based this weekend, and sadly the Audi TT is there way before the pit window should open, and Ryan Parkin doesn't look like he's heading out onto circuit very quickly. So Scott Parkin meanwhile continues on his way. He's still in 6th position currently, 7th in the VW Golf, behind the Callum Noble driven BMW as the race leaders come through Graham Hill Bend, and the teammates are beginning to close up now. The MJM Racing run Seats are close for 3rd and 4th. That 4th place car driven by Brichter and Smith, so Dylan Brichter and Martin Smith. Now that it's been cut loose of the battle for the previous positions with the BMWs and the like further back, it's now been able to have its eyes forward, looking at the similar Seat ahead of it, and it can still see the race leaders up the road, because this leading quartet just hasn't really been split up at all.
No, they haven't at all. There's a bit of traffic just up the road that had been squabbling, actually. The Porsche Boxster of Fernando Coutinho stroke Ben Martin was ahead of John Cooper's Renault Clio, but Cooper got through over the course of that lap, and those are the next two cars that are going to be caught very shortly by our race leading quartet of cars, which for the 13th time are just turning our way out of Graham Hill Bend and sprinting our way along the Cooper Straight. The fastest lap we've had in the race so far has gone to the car in 4th position, the number 2 Seat Leon Supercopa from NJM Racing. Dylan Brichter having posted a 52.594 second lap, and whilst he's at the tail of that queue of cars, he is certainly not dropping away from them. He's, as you suggested, done all of the hard work of catching them. Now the ever more difficult part is trying to squeeze your way through, and the one thing he won't want to do is squeeze his way through and past his teammate, there'll be contact, and him take his teammate, who is the championship leader, out of the race, so he needs to be careful.
He does, yeah, and the MJM team will be keeping a close eye on this, and the Seats still going strong. We've got 3 of the leading 4 cars are the Spanish Seats, with the BMW in the mix as well, in the form of number 45 with Gary Hufford in his AB Motorsport run, BMW E36. So that's how it stands currently. They've got more traffic to deal with. That John Cooper Renault Clio, a rare change of manufacturer for the Daniels Motorsport squad this weekend, still squabbling with the Porsche as it comes down out of Clark Curve towards Paddock Hill Bend. Actually, that's the back marker, I think, isn't it? The 94 car.
Yeah, that's Chris Walton's bull, I think, that is about to be gobbled up by our race leader. So Darren goes, sides his way through and past the traffic. Gary Hufford, that time through, looked as though he'd closed the gap a little bit more. The last lap that they did actually shows Gary Hufford was about 0.3 of a second slower, but I think just as they came up towards Paddock Hill Bend at the end of one lap and the start of the next, the traffic played into the hands of Hufford, so he is a bit closer to the race leader Darren Goes than he was maybe a lap or so ago. We've still got Nick Jackson and then Dylan Brichter sitting there in 3rd and 4th places respectively. But out front, Darren Goes is on to lap number 15 and leads by just a shade over 3/4 of a second at the start of the lap that they just started. Yeah,
not much between them at all. Still those fastest lap bragging rights go to Dylan Brichter in 4th place, but he has got that awkward situation of not wanting to have any dramas with the teammate, which could wrap up the championship this weekend. It's a difficult position for the fastest car on circuit, at least in recent laps, the 52.594 for the 4th placed number 2 Seat Supercopa, which is a car which is still used in Mondello Park in Ireland as its own one-make championship still for this model of Seat Leon. It still shows they're a competitive package running at right at the pointy end of fields in Britain and in Ireland as well. Considering the age of the car, because it is getting on a bit now, when you look at the Darren Goes Seat ahead, it is quite a bit more modern.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's the best part, 15, heading towards 18 years of age since that model of Leon was first introduced. It only seems like a blink of an eye ago, but yeah, quite some time ago now. And I've always been, I've always liked the Supercopa cars. I've always liked the Clio Cup cars. They just look proper racing cars,
yeah,
don't
they do. And like you mentioned, the one mate that supported the BTCC, really looked great with a big field of identical Seats and Clios, and I'm just pleased they found a home, still racing today at Brands, right at the tail end of the 2021 season. There's still a healthy number of these Formula 1 make cars out on track.
Well, there was a European Championship, wasn't there?
Yeah, it came here as well.
Seasons. Yeah, it was hugely competitive. So leading quartet down in towards Graham Hill Bend. They're just starting to maybe pair off a little bit now. I think that Nick Jackson is losing out to Gary Hufford, so the BMW is disappearing further up the road, and Nick Jackson is falling into the clutches of Dylan Brichter, his teammate. The pit window, though, now is open, so it is only just open. 30 minutes of the race to go. Pit window opens. Is anybody going to blink in the top four? No, they all continue round for a further lap. The order remains the same. Car number 22, Darren Goes, leads the race by less than a second from Gary Hufford. In fact, it's more than a second now. It's 1.068 of a second between himself and Gary Hufford. Nick Jackson and Dylan Brichter, third and fourth, separated by less than half a second.
Yeah, they're definitely two pairs now. We've got this train of cars coming out of Graham Hill Bend, which is a lot further back. It involves Chris Payne, who's running in 10th spot in his pink and yellow Caterham. He's behind the 53 Renault Clio, which is
Kevin Sterling.
Thank you. He was a late entry, not on the entry list. So Kevin Sterling in the Clio. The lights ablaze on the Caterham of Chris Payne, which is the first of the drivers to go into pit lane. So that's Chris Payne into the pit box, and the Caterham dives into its position, indicator on, and Payne's the first to blink of the 17 runners.
Yeah, Nick Jackson is in now, ready to hand over to Ollie Pidgley. So that is the championship leading car into the pit lane. And where are they going to feed back out? Because remember, in terms of the championship, Darren Goes is just 3 points adrift of Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley in the championship standings when you take drop scores into account. So it's 6 rounds to the championship. You count your best 5. So Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley drop 22 points as their worst score. Darren Goes drops 23 points as his worst score. So it's all rather tight in terms of the championship. They drop from 148 and 146 respectively to 126 and 123 respectively. So it's really almost who finishes ahead of the other, isn't it, as to who's going to pick up the championship title.
Yeah, that's what it'll come down to, it seems. Good idea to get Ollie Pidgley in the car. Very quick peddler from one make. Action has been involved in the MSV Track Day series for a while now. It looks like we've got one car off. That is the Ryan Parkin Audi TT. So Mark just spotted that at the back of the commentary box. He's pulled off on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, safely behind the tyre wall, so we won't need any yellow flags at Graham Hill Bend. But the troublesome Audi, which was already in the pit lane earlier in the race, even before the pit window opened, is now out of this one on the old Rallycross cut through on the back of the pit lane.
Yeah, shame for that, because whatever it was, they've got it sorted, and it seemed to be back to the kind of pace it ought to have been doing again, but it's clearly cried enough. So we mentioned Chris Payne was in the pit lane. We haven't mentioned that Martin Cully has now died for the pit lane, and also the Seat Ibiza of Michael Smith this lap through, which is an ex-team Darkside car. The Seat Ibiza also heads in towards the pit lane, so that will come to a halt midway down the pit lane. Chris Payne is already starting to head down towards pit lane exit at the wheel of his pink Caterham with its yellow rollover hoop, so he has conducted his pit stop and will head out onto the track. But certainly all of those at the sharp end, the top 8, all is yet still to come into the pits.
Yeah, they are holding out for now. This is whereabouts we saw a safety car in the MSV Track Day Championship encounter earlier on. So the race, the Ollie Pidgley Seat rejoins. He's going to come out on the circuit just ahead of John Cooper in his Daniels Motorsport run Renault Clio. So Pidgley back out on track. Expect to see some good pace from the number 1 car. Last year's champions know they need to get ahead of Darren Goes if they're to wrestle top spot away from him in this year's MSV Supercup. Last year, as Mark explained, of this title with this name, it will change for 2022, and Darren Goes is in the box seat currently to take the crown, the last Supercup crown as it is currently called, but he's continuing on his way for now, and the leading trio Goes with Hufford and Dylan Brichter behind have lost Ollie Pidgley from that train, and now we'll be thinking about when to opt for their stop in the pit lane.
Yeah, Darren Goes was the first ever Supercup champion. He won it when Supercup was created in 2019. is he going to bookend the history of Supercup with a win in the first ever championship season, a win in the last ever championship season before it becomes rebadged and reformatted as well to Turismo X Championship for next year, as we mentioned, a more powerful class coming in, but more importantly it changes format as well, because it's 2 20-minute sprint races, but also a Super Pole shootout is what is within the draft regulations for the 2022 championship season. So a little bit of traffic there has just split the pack a little bit that time through, and that is what has now given the opportunity for Gary Hufford to dive for the pit lane. So getting caught up in the traffic that time through, the BMW was running second in the race. Number 45, Gary Hufford, heads into the pit lane in for what really is, I think, only his third outing this year in the Supercup, one of which didn't end well here at Brands Hatch on the Royal Prix circuit earlier on in the year.
Hufford in, he did get held up with that traffic. It was the Porsche Boxster he was trying to pass through clearways, so then he just thought, right, I'm going to dive into pit lane this time around. He didn't get held up all too much, but it has split the leading contenders somewhat, with Darren Goes given a healthier advantage now over Dylan Brichter in second spot. Still, Dylan has got the fastest lap bragging rights and is now coming into pit lane. So now it's all eyes on Darren Goes as to when he will disappear into his stop. So Brichter from second on the road in the NJM run Seat is trundling down pit road now and will head into his spot. He passes the orange Hufford car, which is being seen to by the crew down in pit lane beneath us, but the second place car is in, and now it's all eyes on Darren Goes as to when he will blink.
Yeah, so Darren Goes, is he going to leave it till the very back end of the window? If he's going to leave it till the very tail end of the window, he's still got another 8.5 minutes really before he needs to start to trundle his way into the pit lane. So there's plenty of time for him to decide as to when he wants to do it. For the moment, whilst he's got clear track, he may as well stay out there, I would say, on this lap. And indeed, that is a decision he has taken as well, because he is about to head over the start-finish line. The next car on track he would meet is only just heading out of Druid, so it's the best part of half a lap that is clear in the windscreen of Darren Goes. So he can press on for at least another 3 or 4 laps without meeting any traffic, without getting compromised, and that might be just sufficient for him to call into the pit lane, do the pit stop, get back out again and hang on to the lead, because he has been leading since the get-go, hasn't he, really?
Yeah, Goes has been away from the rest so far. As the pit stops are cycling through, it's the Adrian and Damien Bradley car which has come up into second spot overall, but the pit stop's still yet to be fully completed. As we know, still Brichter and Smith's Seat is being looked and checked over down in pit lane. The number 2 car, doors are being closed about now, so it shouldn't be too long until we see the number 2 back out on track.
Yeah, the gap that I'm trying to keep an eye on is the gap between the number 1 Seat Leon of Ollie Pidgley and Gary Hufford's orange BMW that lies ahead. That is at 6.1 seconds at the moment, because arguably once we've cycled through the pit stop, that is going to be for second and third in the race. As into the pit lane comes Darren Goes now, so race leader is into the pit lane. Also the Team Legacy BMW of Adrian and Damien Bradley heads into the pit lane, so that now puts car number 20, which is Callum Noble, up into the lead of the race. And up to second in the race now is the Volkswagen Golf of Scott Parkin. They're just heading round through Druids, first and second in the race, and of course they haven't pitted yet.
No, and that is still to be played out. Noble, Parkin first and second. Darren Goes is now stopped. Lights still on the Seat. They're just checking over the TCR spec car. Very nicely turned out Seat indeed. The Bradley are swapping over as well further down in pit lane. Darren Goes about halfway down currently, so he'll be getting back out on track. 25 laps in, we have 21 minutes left to go, and soon we'll wait and see who cycles back out with the top spot. Pidgley, we know, is rapid, and he's got some traffic ahead because the little Peugeot 205, the number 33 car of Diagnostics and Puncher, which has been set to be out in the track day trophy soon as well, was really showing well in qualifying. Pidgley is going to try and pass the 205 into Druids.
And that's the car I was looking at. I was wondering what the gap was going to do between Ollie Pidgley and Gary Hufford's BMW. In answer to that, in 2 laps, it's come down from 6.1 seconds to 1.4 seconds. So Ollie Pidgley pushing to try and close up onto the coattails of the orange BMW. All of this whilst Darren Goes still remains stationary in the pit lane, but his 2-minute pit stop must be almost up now. So any second now, we're going to start to see what was the race leading number 22 car, and bang on cue, as I say, it starts to trickle its way back down towards pit lane exit. Where is he going to feed out relative to the orange BMW and Ollie Pitchley's Seat Leon? Out of pit lane he goes. That is Darren Goes, who once we cycle through the pit stop should go back into the lead of the race. But look who is right behind him now. It is going to be Ollie Pitchley, isn't it, that has managed to go through ahead of Gary Hufford. So this is for the lead of the race potentially, and also the lead of the championship potentially.
Yeah, I'm just trying to check if that is Pitchley or is that the NJM sister car possibly.
It's the sister car, isn't it?
Think it is.
Yeah, it's Martin Smith's. Yeah, you're right, because it's got the red bonnet.
It's the sister NJM car has cycled through into second spot, so that's what was second behind Darren Goes before the pit stop, and it's right on the tail now of Darren Goes through Surtees and McLaren. So Martin Smith now behind the wheel, handed over from Dylan Brichter, and trying to make a move on the more modern Seat as it comes out of Clearways down onto the Brabham Straight. And it's all kicking off, and MJM Motorsport can use this to their advantage really, because their teammate could be helped by this battling, and Ollie Pitchley could get involved in the lead scrap if his teammate does him a favour and holds up Darren Goes.
Or if he gets in front of him and bottles him up, yeah.
Even that.
Yeah, anything at all to try and put the championship in the direction of NJN and try and take it away from Mango's Racing. They know each other well. More cars diving into the pit lane. John Cooper is in at the wheel of the Renault Clio. He's got as high as fourth in the race. In is the number 53 Clio of former policeman Kevin Sterling, who also dives for the pit lane at the wheel of the Team Norfolk Renault Clio. So it is still Callum Noble and Scott Parkin that lead this race at the moment. They are nose to tail for it. There's 4 minutes of the pit window still being open. They're both going to stay out still at the moment. So they are just about to complete lap number 29. But of course, those are now the only two cars that haven't pitted in this race as yet. So the race lead should go back the way of the number 22 Seat Leon once we've cycled through the pit stops.
Yeah, it's the effective battle for the lead. Is this one going through Paddock Hill Bend now? They're behind the Seat Ibiza as it goes up into Druids. Darren Goes with the more up-to-date Seat Leon, and then right on his tail Martin Smith. There's two packs of two, one for Goes versus Smith, then we see the Hufford versus Ollie Pitchley with a Seat stuck in the middle, which is the Smith number 24 car, which has been leading Class B.
It should be the top three in each of the classes that go towards the podium. Martin Smith weaving around, seeing whether he can unlock the door to the lead of the race, but Darren Goes, or what will be the lead of the race when we get the pit stop cycled through, but Darren Goes is having absolutely none of it. Did I see Callum Noble come to the pit lane? Yes, and Scott Parkin comes to the pit lane as well. So over the start finish line, not as yet taking up the lead, because it will be next time around when Darren Goes will physically pick. Now are all together for the lead of the race.
This is brilliant stuff. It's three Seats for the lead, then Goes has still got the advantage. The championship's on the line as well. Mark explained earlier, Pitchley needs to get ahead of Darren Goes to take the win, and there's the teammates passing. So there is team orders between NJM. There's a call on the radio, I'm sure, as the number 2 car lets the number 1 of Pitchley through, and that's Ollie Pitchley up into second. That was an easy move, as you'd see, and now Ollie Pitchley can pile all of the pressure onto race leader Darren Goes. We've got 14 and a half or so minutes left to go. Adrian and Damien Bradley have come up into fourth spot now, passing Hufford in P5 as the leaders, the three, come into Clearways. They've got traffic though, and the Porsche, which has been slow throughout the race, is there on the apex at Clearways. They all just about get through, but Pitchley's right there, and he knows that the teammate behind him, Martin Smith, isn't going to attack. He will follow and be a backup to Pitchley, but Ollie can really go in attack mode.
Yep, so that at the moment I'm going to have to do a little bit of maths in a moment, because of course Darren Goes has got the extra point for the fastest lap. He is also going to gain one extra point because he will finish ahead of one more competitor in his class. He will also pick up 3 extra championship points because he's going to get 30 for the win, whereas Nicholas Jackson and Ollie Pitchley are going to get 27 for finishing in second place. So this is going to make the championship battle really, really close. I'm going to do the maths whilst you're talking, because I still think at the moment Darren Goes leading the race is enough for him to claim the championship.
Yeah, so Darren's got the advantage for now. What do we have? 13 and a half minutes now left to go. It's going to be a long 13 and a half minutes then for Darren Goes. And his man goes racing TCR spec Seat. He's got the more modern machinery underneath him, but he's got 2 teammates right on his tail as they go along the Brabham Straight into Paddock Hill Bend. Nothing between them for now, and just don't discount Adrian and Damien Bradley's BMW, because we know the Bradleys have very good local knowledge of the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. I think Chatham they come from, so not very far at all. The Irish pairing, the Bradleys, in 4th place, had such a poor start, didn't get off the line at all well, but once the pit stops have been completed, now they've got their heads down and got some clear air and past the Hufford 5th place car, they've been able to really concentrate on the leading trio, and Pidgley, Goes and Smith are being caught by the BMW.
Yeah, the way I've got it at the moment is it'd be 30 points for the win for Darren Glows, plus he'd beat 5 in his class, plus he's got 1 for pole position, whereas for the car in 2nd place it'd be 27 points for the win and 4 points for beating extra people in class. So Darren Goes, who is 3 points adrift in the championship standings coming into this race, when you take drop scores into account, would outscore the car behind him by 5 points, meaning he'd win the championship by 2. That's how close it is at the moment. Those cars for 1st and 2nd change position, all of a sudden the championship goes the other way.
So Mark working out all of these little details, because there's an added complication of if you beat the number of cars in your class, you get extra points as well. So that does add a little bit more maths to the equation, as Goes, Pidgley and Smith all come out of Graham Hill Bend again. 11 and a bit minutes left to go, and still that BMW in 4th place is going quicker than it has before. It's 52.680. It's the best lap it has posted all race long. So that's the 4th place car of Adrian and Damien Bradley. So we cannot make this just a SEAT race. The BMW wants to join this scrap for the lead as well, and it's going like a train. It's going to be right with them in a couple of laps, I think. Adrian and Damien Bradley's car is right with them now that it's passed Gary Hufford in 5th place. It's really powering on nicely, and will join this championship decider for the last round of the MSV Supercup.
Yeah, the good thing is, I suppose, if you're one of those drivers in the top 3, is that the car that's catching runs in the guest class, and therefore it is not eligible for championship points, if my understanding of the regulations are correct. So yes, it could still have a bearing on the outcome of the race if he starts to rub doors with people or start to get involved in the squabbles, but the championship battle is still going to come down to Darren Goes and Ollie Pidgley, who took over, of course, from Nick Jackson, the outgoing champions, looking to try and make it back-to-back championship. Ollie Pidgley looks to try and get a better run on Darren Goes as they come over the start-finish line. The 2 Seats pretty much still nose to tail. The car of Martin Smith is just that little bit further back, and closing it all of the time is the white and light green Team Legacy BMW. Darren Goes needs to win this race to claim the championship. Ollie Pidgley in 2nd place needs to win this race to claim the championship.
Yeah, it couldn't be. Yeah, it's really all on the line here now, and that BMW is right with them. Yes, maybe a guest entry, but could definitely have a factor in this, as Darren Goes is really looked to be a defensive mode through Graham Hill Bend, hugging the curbs through the left-hander. Blue flags are showing ahead because they've got that slow Porsche, which we've lapped a few times already in this one. Look at Ollie Pidgley's aggressive line through clearways. That was a Matt Neal style line, really lurching the car, trying to dive up the inside and make a move on Goes on the inside of clearways. It didn't work. He knows he's got his teammate there. It's like a security blanket in a way, but it won't be secure anymore if that BMW comes through, and now they've got traffic to contend with. It's really anyone's guess, this one, not just for the race win, but the championship as well. They do get through the traffic okay for now. Next part of the back markers to pass will be John Cooper in his Renault Clio coming into Graham Hill Bend now. So these 4 cars for the lead and the championship on the line. It's going to be a pretty nervy 9.5 minutes.
A very nervy 9.5 minutes, because they've already been battling for the vast majority of the race, haven't they? And Darren Goes has not put a wheel wrong, I've got to say. Great driving by everybody. They are wheel to wheel. Ollie Pidgley tries to sneak up the inside of Darren Goes. The unloaded wheel gets locked up as they try to avoid tripping over each other. They all compromise each other's exit speed coming off the corner. I think Darren Goes is carrying a bit of damage. There must have been contact between the pair of them, and it looks as though there is a bit of tyre rub on Darren Goes' car now, and that is potentially going to affect the championship standings. Through is going to try and go Ollie Pidgley. Darren Goes will want to try and hang on to it, but that tyre rub looked quite significant coming down the straight, the amount of smoke, but by the time he gets up towards Druids, it seems to, fingers crossed, have stopped.
Yeah, just about. Instead of a Matt Neal style move, it was a proper Matt Neal style move at clearways that time through from Pidgley, rubbing door handles and bit of bumper rubbing as they went through clearways. Still this 4-car train. They've left the 5th place car of Hufford in their wake, and this is where it all kicked off last time through, with Pidgley trying that inside line, and Goes is wise to that. He parks the car on the inside at clearways, and Pidgley, you've got to go the long way round, Ollie. He's got to try and be brave around the outside at clearways. Lights flashing again on the 2nd place car. Still that handily placed Martin Smith for Ollie Pidgley is helping him along really, because he's right there as a buffer, keeping the BMW at bay. That's allowing Ollie Pidgley to put all his attention on that Seat ahead of him, and thankfully for Darren Goes, that tyre rubbing on bodywork has now stopped, thankfully for him.
It has, yeah. I think it must have been a little bit of just rubbing on the tyre, and it flicked itself back out again. I do hope that the Team Legacy BMW of Adrian and Damien Bradley have read the script here, because they really don't want to get involved in this championship squad. But what we have had is Martin Smith sneak back through and ahead of his teammate Ollie Pidgley. So that now is, maybe that's because Ollie Pidgley perhaps realises he hasn't got the pace at the moment, hasn't got the car underneath him that he needs. Go and attack Martin Smith if you're quicker at this stage of the race. Try and take the lead of the race, and then try and, if you're ahead of Darren Goes, back him up a little bit, and that might be the opportunity for me to sneak through. So I do think that NJM are maybe trying a different tactic here to see whether anything else they could do would unlock them for the championship lead. But for the moment though, Darren Goes still leading the way, still leading the championship, and 7 minutes away from, subject to official confirmation, being crowned the champion.
Yeah, I think Ollie Pidgley got that Martin is faster than you message like you hear in Formula 1, and through goes the Seat. There's the switch around, and now it's all eyes on Martin Smith and Ollie Pidgley, and we're hoping that he can do what he failed to do in the early part of this one and muscle his way past Darren Goes for top spots. They've left Ollie Pidgley really. There's a gap of a few car lengths, and Martin Smith is right there with the 1st place car as off the circuit. Goes, that's the Bradley's car. Yes, the Bradley BMW is off in the weeds around clearways, and it's now heating up between Martin Smith and Darren Goes. We can discount the BMW. The guest entry is now a long way adrift, and now it's Martin Smith versus Goes.
Yeah, and Hufford now, Gary Hufford now, the wheel of the orange BMW, is back up into 4th place because of the grassy moment for the Team Legacy Beamer. So it is Seat from Seat from Seat, and now Martin Smith is trying around the outside of Darren Goes at Druids, washes out wide and isn't going to work, so has to tuck himself back behind once more. We've still got that little bit of traffic of John Cooper's Renault Clio just up the road, the Daniels Motorsport prepared car that is going to be the next of those that this leading trio will get towards. 5.5 minutes of the race to go, 41 laps already completed, the fastest lap and the extra championship point going the way of the car in 2nd place at the moment, which is Martin Smith, who is throwing everything, including the kitchen sink at it here, to try and work his way through into the lead of the race. He almost has got an overlap with Darren Goes as they come over the start finish line this time through, but still can't quite draw himself alongside, so he'll brake as late as he can in towards Paddock Hill Bend, try and sweep his way if he can back on the cutback on the exit. But no, Darren Goes is wise to that, moves the car over to the right hand side of the circuit as they head up towards Druids, and now they're about to meet the traffic. It is going to be the Porsche Boxster that will be the first of the little bit of traffic that they will meet, and then it will be the Renault Clio, and the traffic could be what the deciding factor is in this championship.
It could be, yeah. They've met it at an awkward position at Graham Hill Bend, and there's a chance for Martin Smith is there on the exit. They disappear behind our air conditioning units at the back of the commentary box, but no, Darren Goes just really super defensive as ever, but he is keeping him at bay for now. Smith can't do anything about it. He goes really wide through clearways, trying to get that slingshot effect which powers him onto the Brabham Straight. He's going out of Clark Curve. They've got John Cooper's Renault Clio ahead, so that will be the next back marker they will pass. But the number 2 car of Dylan Brichter, now with Martin Smith behind the wheel. Smith's got to do it. It will help his teammate Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley no end if he can dispose of Darren Goes for the race lead, but it still goes with the advantage like a sponge. He's absorbing every bit of pressure thrown at him. This is a great drive from Goes, who fresh from that drive in the Track Day Championship earlier. That was a good warming up session, I think, for Darren, because he's really turned it on here in this Supercup finale.
Yeah, remember, he is a champion, Darren Goes. He won the 2019 Supercup Championship from what was Colin Tester and Hugh Gurney's BMW back in, 3 years ago now, and he will know that he has had a 45-minute race here. At no point has he not been under pressure, and he is still under pressure with just 3 minutes, 30 seconds to go over the start-finish line. Lap number 44 completed. Still John Cooper's Renault Clio that at some point he's going to have to be very decisive and dive his way through and past. He's not quite up onto the back marker just as yet, and he will have to deal with that as effectively as he can. Where they're going to meet John Cooper, slap bang in the middle of Druids. John moves well and truly out of the way, doesn't want to get involved in the squabble for the lead of the race. So the leading pair go through, and Ollie Pidgley just all of a sudden really dropping back now. His lap times have dropped off over the course of the last few laps. I do wonder whether either maybe the snatch brake or a little bit of contact might have had an effect on what was the championship leading car coming into this race, but it's probably going to come up short in terms of the championship scoring.
A little bit of contact between the leading duo as they went out of Graham Hill Bend that time around with bumper to bumper contact, and now look at Adrian and Damien Bradley's BMW, because that's getting involved again after its grassy moment at Clearways. The Bradleys are back in the game. They are currently in 5th spot, trying to chase down the Hufford BMW and going to try and make a move, going down past the commentary box into Paddock Hill Bend. They passed John Cooper, who's driven very sensibly indeed to keep out of the way of the top 5, and back into the top 4 now is the Bradley and Bradley BMW. But Darren Goes has got just 2 and a bit minutes left to go, 2 minutes and 10 seconds before the end of this one, as the BMW squabble is continuing down into Graham Hill Bend.
There is definitely a problem with Ollie Pidgley's car. It was really, really slow coming out of Druids, and I think it has either got some sort of issue with it, or maybe the tyres have gone off too much on that car, because it just doesn't seem to be in the sweet spot that it was earlier on in the race. Remember, the car that's in 3rd place needs to win to claim the championship, and at the moment Darren Goes, who was 3 points adrift in the championship standings coming into this race, you could argue 2 because he picked up the pole position and that netted him an extra championship point, but it does look as though with a lap and a bit to go, he is potentially going to be the champion for this year. But of course, anything can happen. Till he makes that checkered flag, anything could happen at all. He is still under pressure from Martin Smith. In 3rd place though, now we have got the car behind coming under pressure, which is Ollie Pidgley, who's coming under pressure from the Bradley's team Legacy BMW, looking to try and squeeze its way back through into the podium places. Gets a little bit sideways coming out of Graham Hill Bend though, so that drops the Beamer back away from the Seat that he had been catching. But for the lead of the race, they are still together, and it is still Martin Smith who is trying everything to try and see if he can squeeze his way through or force Darren Goes into any sort of mistake at all. They will head over the start-finish line. There is now less than a lap time to go. The last lap of the last race of the championship, and we still don't know what way the championship is going. Is it going to be Darren Goes, the 2019 champion, that comes out on top? Might it be the car in 3rd place if something were to kick off on this last lap, which would be Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley, who claim back-to-back championship, but their car faltered again going up the hill. There is definitely a problem with that car. It's slowed up going up Halewood Hill and clearly has some sort of intermittent issue. But for the final time, out of Graham Hill Bend, Darren Goes is still having to defend from Martin Smith, who almost got the overlap this time, and that was really close. Darren Goes just got the door closed. They worked their way past the back marker. The door was open. Martin Smith kept his foot in, but at the last minute backed out to avoid the contact between the pair of them. So Darren Goes on the run to the line. Looks as though he has probably done enough here to claim the race win, and with it, if I've got the maths right, will go the championship. Darren Goes is going to be the winner, and subject to official confirmation, is our Supercup champion for the last ever year of this series before it becomes rebadged as Turismo X for next year. Dylan Brixer and Martin Smith finish in 2nd position, less than half a second adrift in the end, and it's the Bradley's BMW that finishes in 3rd place. 4th place, the outgoing champions Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley. 5th place goes the way of number 45, which is Gary Rufford, and in 6th place it is going to be number 13 Scott Parkin, who wins Class A, by the way. 7th over the start finish line now, taking the checker flag, is Callum Noble. 8th place is going to be car number 24, which is Michael Smith, who finishes in 8th place. 9th place should be the beautiful looking, fabulous sounding Peugeot 205 of Alex Di Donato and Ben Punch.